Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you share, could be articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and we really try to pull out the most impactful insights.
Exactly. The goal is to give you that shortcut to being genuinely informed, maybe find some surprising things along the way, and keep it interesting.
And today we're jumping into a really fascinating collection of wisdom. It's something that's helped a lot of very high-performing people.
Oh, it really is extraordinary. We're talking about Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans. Think of it like this unique collection, right? Not just theories, but actual habits, ways of thinking, life strategies. Totally practical. And he got it all from interviewing over 200 world-class people. Entrepreneurs, athletes, investors, artists, a real mix.
The top performers.
Right. But the amazing thing Ferriss points out, and this is key, is that these tools aren't just for, like, the super elite. They're actionable things anyone can use to make their life better, wherever you are right now.
Yeah, that's the core idea Ferris gets across right from the start, isn't it?
Yeah.
These small tweaks, to your routine, your mindset, your habits, they can add up to huge results over time. It's that compounding effect.
Exactly.
So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to hand you a practical toolkit drawn from these, well, titans. Strategies for better physical health, sharper thinking, more emotional resilience, and yeah, financial success too.
And Ferriss is really clear. It's not a rigid formula, right?
Not at all. He stresses that it's all customizable. You take these principles and you build your own path.
Which is what makes it so powerful, I think. It's not just generic advice like work hard. He explains why specific things work for these top people and, crucially, how you can adapt them.
Like a personal roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. Built from the real-world experience of people who've, figured a lot of stuff out. It's about giving you practical ideas you can literally start using today to boost your productivity, your health, your mindset.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting with the healthy section. This is all about the strategies these high performers use for energy resilience. Basically, the foundations.
Right, the physical and emotional well-being stuff.
Hmm.
And one theme that comes up again and again, almost like a religion for some of these folks, is the morning routine.
Ah, yes, the morning routine. Seems everyone successful has one.
It really does seem that way. They aren't just, stumbling out of bed into the day. They're intentionally setting the stage. Like Tony Robbins, he does this thing called priming.
Right, I've heard of that. Breathing and visualization.
Yeah, a really specific sequence. He says it totally shifts his energy and emotional state right away.
Yeah.
And then you've got someone like Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL guy.
Intense workouts at 4 a.m., right?
Yeah, exactly. Ferriss points out it's not just about fitness for Jocko. It's about choosing the hard thing first, building up this callus of discipline, he calls it. Makes the rest of the day seem easier.
That callus of discipline idea is powerful, but, for a lot of people listening, that sounds daunting, really demanding. Does Ferris talk about how to actually start something like that, overcoming that initial resistance?
Oh, definitely. A big part of Ferriss's approach is starting small, finding your easiest entry point.
Yeah.
It's not about doing Jocko's workout tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank goodness.
Huh? Right. Many of the titans, like the investor Ray Dalio, they talk about just starting with one small thing, consistently.
Just one.
Yeah, because that little win, that feeling of intentionally starting your day the way you choose, it builds momentum. It gives you a sense of control, even if the rest of the day is crazy. So the actionable tip for you here is maybe create your own small morning routine. Could be 5 minutes of quiet breathing, a quick walk, whatever works. Just be intentional.
Okay, intentionality from the start makes sense. So beyond the morning, exercise is obviously huge for everyone in the book, both physically and mentally.
Absolutely universal.
Yeah. But Ferris mentioned some really intense stuff like Greg Glassman from CrossFit or Chris Gethin. For someone listening who wants to incorporate more exercise but, maybe doesn't have hours a day, what's the core takeaway from these guys?
Well, what Ferriss pulls out isn't necessarily their specific crazy workouts, but the underlying principle. It's about functional movement and often intensity over just duration.
Functional movement, like real-world strength.
Exactly. Glassman and Geffen focus on things like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, exercises that build strength you actually use, and they build mental toughness too. The insight is you don't always need long workouts. Short bursts of high-intensity stuff like interval training, that can give you huge benefits, physical and mental, and it fits into a busy schedule better.
Quality over quantity, essentially. Focusing on movements that matter.
You got it.
Okay. And something often kind of pushed aside but critical for these performers is sleep. Ferris really hammers this home. You mentioned Ariana Huffington earlier.
Yeah, her story is dramatic, right?
Mhm.
Collapsing from pure exhaustion. That was her wake-up call, literally.
So beyond just get 8 hours, what specific things do these titans do to optimize sleep? Any surprises there?
Well, the interesting thing Ferriss notes is that they treat sleep actively. It's not just downtime, it's a crucial recovery strategy. Like Ariana, after her collapse, she became super serious about sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene, like specific habits.
Yeah, like making your bedroom a real sanctuary for sleep. Good mattress, blackout curtains, maybe white noise. And a big one is cutting down on blue light from screens before bed. It messes with your melatonin.
Ah, the phone scrolling in bed habit.
Exactly. The takeaway is great sleep isn't a luxury if you want to perform well. It's fundamental for memory, for emotional balance, for clear thinking. Makes everything else work better.
Right, it affects everything. Now let's talk fuel, nutrition, and supplements. I
Right.
thought it was interesting how Ferriss describes people like Dr. Peter Akea using diet almost like a tool for brain function, not just weight.
Yes. That's a really key point Ferriss highlights. It's about deliberate experimentation to achieve specific outcomes. Addie explores things like intermittent fasting or low-carb diets.
Why those specifically?
Well, he's observed they can seriously sharpen focus and keep energy levels really stable, especially during intense work. It's not about finding one perfect diet for everyone, but discovering what actually fuels your brain best.
Finding your optimal fuel mix.
Exactly. And with supplements, it's similar. Targeted things like nootropics for brain boost or adaptogens for stress.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is crucial always check with a doctor or professional first. Don't just start popping pills.
Good caveat. Okay, and the last piece in this healthy section, breathing. Sounds simple, but Ferriss features people like Navy SEAL Mark Devine using specific techniques, like box breathing. Why is something so basic so powerful for people under extreme pressure?
It's all about hacking your nervous system directly. Box breathing, that inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4 pattern, it literally interrupts the body's stress response, that fight or flight thing.
Yeah, like hitting a reset button.
Pretty much. For guys like Devine, Ferriss points out, it's not just calming down. It's about regaining focus, shifting from panic to clear, deliberate action. So, an easy win for you. Feeling anxious? Need to focus? Try it. Just a few rounds. It's always there.
Simple, effective. Okay, so we've covered body and mind foundations, but performance often involves resources too. Let's transition to the wealthy section. How did these titans approach building financial freedom?
Right. And a really strong theme here is developing an entrepreneurial mindset, even if you never actually start your own company.
What does that mean exactly? An entrepreneurial mindset.
But people like Mark Andreessen, the billionaire investor, or Naval Ravikant, they talk about seeing wealth creation not just as earning money, but as creating massive value. They see business almost like a strategic game. It involves taking smart risks, learning from when things go wrong.
Failure as learning.
Exactly. And focusing on the long game, on compounding returns, is about being a creator, solving problems.
That strategic game idea is cool. But entrepreneurship itself can sound huge, maybe scary for some listeners. Does Ferriss offer tips on starting smaller or getting over that fear of failure?
Oh, for sure. He talks a lot about how many of these successful people started with tiny experiments, like minimum viable products, testing an idea without betting the farm.
So not jumping in head first necessarily.
Right. The key insight isn't about avoiding failure. It's about failing fast and cheaply, seeing it as data, information that helps you adjust your approach. So for you, it could mean just thinking, what problem can I solve? Even in your current job. Try something small. See what happens. Learn from it. Don't wait for perfection.
Okay, experiment and iterate. Got it. And besides starting things, a lot of Ferriss's interviewees are also smart long-term investors, right? Building passive income.
Yes, across different things, stocks, real estate.
Investing can feel really complex, though, especially if you're new to it. Does Ferriss share any, I don't know, simpler advice from people like Ramit Sethi or Ray Dalio?
Yeah, and the focus is often on simplicity and consistency, actually. Ramit Sethi, for example, he's huge on automating small, regular investments, like into low-cost index funds. Start early, be consistent. The magic is in the compounding over time, not trying to pick the next hot stock.
Set it and forget it, almost.
Kinda, yeah. And then Ray Dalio, the hedge fund guy, he really emphasizes diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm.
And manage your risk intelligently. The big takeaway, sustainable wealth usually comes from patience and smart fundamentals, not chasing quick wins.
Patience and discipline, again, seems to be a theme.
It really is.
And underpinning all this financial stuff is how you manage your time and focus. Ferriss talks about the 80-20 rule, batching tasks. For someone feeling constantly swamped, how do these titans actually identify the most important tasks and stick to them?
Ruthless elimination delegation. That's what stands out. The 80-20 rule isn't just finding the vital 20% that gets 80% of the results.
It's about ditching the other 80%.
Exactly. They actively cut out, delegate, automate, or just plain ignore things that don't really move the needle on their main goals. So, a practical tool for you. Try the Pomodoro technique. Work in focused bursts, maybe 25 minutes, then a short break helps concentration. And seriously ask yourself, what tasks on my list can someone else do? Or do I even need to do this at all?
Be ruthless with your time. Okay, lastly in this section, networking. Ferriss emphasizes how important connections are for growth. People like Tim O'Reilly leverage their networks hugely.
Yeah, it opens doors to opportunities you'd never find otherwise.
But networking can sometimes feel a bit transactional, maybe fake. Does Ferriss give any advice on building real, authentic connections that actually lead to results?
He does, and it goes back to that idea of creating value. The best networkers Ferriss features, like O'Reilly, they aren't just collecting contacts. They're genuinely trying to understand people, see how they can help, offer value first.
Give before you...
Pretty much. It's about building relationships on respect and curiosity. So yeah, go to industry events, but go to learn and contribute, not just hand out cards. Reach out to mentors, but maybe offer them help too.
Yeah.
Connect with people you admire by focusing on collaboration, not just competition.
That feels more genuine.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff on the wealth building side. Let's move to the third pillar, whys. This is about mental clarity, emotional intelligence, that inner game.
Right, mastering your inner world. And a foundation for many titans here seems to be mindfulness or meditation.
Why is that so common among them?
Ferriss finds it's primarily for emotional stability and mental clarity, especially when things get chaotic. He himself does transcendental meditation, TM. Others like Ariana Huffington use daily mindfulness to cut through stress and make better decisions. It's like building a mental buffer zone.
A buffer zone, I like that. But again, for busy people, adding meditation can feel like just another chore. How do you get past that initial hurdle? Does Ferriss offer tips for people who, can't sit still?
Yeah, and the advice is consistent. Start really small. Consistency beats duration, especially first, and change how you think about it. Ferriss found even just 5 or 10 minutes of focused breathing or scanning through your body noticing sensations can make a real difference in stress and focus.
So it doesn't have to be an hour on a cushion?
Not at all.
Yes.
It's not about reaching nirvana tomorrow. It's about creating these tiny moments of calm that add up. So the advice is simple. Just try to weave in a short period of focused quiet into your day. It builds that self-regulation muscle.
Makes sense. And beyond quiet reflection, there's active learning. People like Elon Musk, Oprah, they're famous for being constant learners, right? Reading, mentors.
Absolutely. Lifelong learning is a massive priority. Ferriss himself reads about a book a week. He says it's key for his own creativity and growth.
A book a week, wow.
Yeah, but the key insight isn't just how much they read, but how they learn. It's active. They seek out different viewpoints, they challenge their own ideas, they connect dots between different fields.
So it's not just absorbing information.
No, it's engaging with it. So it's a challenge for you. Maybe commit to reading just one book a month, but pick something that really pushes your thinking or teaches a new skill. Look at online courses, workshops, find mentors. It's about constantly stretching your understanding.
Stretching your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, now something really fascinating Ferriss digs into is mental models for decision-making. Charlie Munger is famous for this. Using frameworks like first principles thinking, how can listeners actually apply these somewhat abstract ideas day to day?
That's a great question because they can sound academic. But Ferriss shows they're really practical thinking tools. First principles means breaking a problem down to its absolute basic truths, ignoring assumptions. It's how you innovate.
Like starting from scratch, mentally.
Exactly. But Ferriss also covers others, like second-order thinking, what are the consequences of this decision, and inversion thinking about what could go wrong so you can prevent it.
Thinking backwards from failure.
Right. These aren't just for big business strategy. They help you avoid snap judgments in everyday life. They force you to consider outcomes more deeply, look for pitfalls. So getting familiar with a few key mental models can seriously improve your decision quality.
Build a mental toolkit. Love it. And finally, the why section covers emotional intelligence, EQ, crucial for leadership, relationships. Daniel Goleman's work comes up. But EQ can feel a bit fuzzy. How do you actually develop it? Any concrete practices?
Well, Ferriss's interview suggests that while you can't measure EQ like IQ, it's definitely a skill you can build with practice. Goleman talks about self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy.
Okay, but how do you practice those?
Tangible things Ferriss highlights include journaling regularly to understand your own emotions and triggers, practicing pausing before you react, especially when you feel heated,
Hmm.
and actively trying to see things from other people's perspectives, like really listening in conversations.
Listening to understand, not just to reply.
Exactly. It's about building better self-control and stronger connections through deliberate daily effort.
Okay, so we've covered healthy, wealthy, and wise. Bringing all together, what's the big picture message from Tools of Titans?
I think Ferriss's ultimate point is that real sustainable success isn't just about crushing it in one area. It's about integrating all three. Health, wealth, and wisdom should ideally support each other, create a positive feedback loop.
A harmonious life, almost.
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes back to that core idea. Small, consistent habits and routines applied across these areas are what lead to those big long-term results.
So the key takeaways seem to be things like resilience, physical and mental, discipline, mindfulness for peace, constant learning and experimenting.
Definitely. And building wealth smartly, creating value, nurturing connections, it all ties together.
So what this really means for you, the listener, is that the ultimate goal is maybe creating that kind of life where health, wealth, and wisdom feed each other, leading to ideally more purpose, fulfillment, and yeah, maybe some peace too.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a thought to leave you with. Thinking about everything we've just unpacked, all these tools and strategies from morning routines to mental models, from exercise to investing, from mindfulness to networking, what's one specific small change you could realistically implement today? Something that over time might just compound into massive results in your health, your wealth, or your wisdom. What's your first tool going to be?